All right. Hello, good day. Riley and Van Gogh checking in. My favorite time to break out the camera is when we are taking a break. And we are taking a break now. Welcome to another day. Today is Friday, June 28th, I believe. And that means it's day 57 of our AT through hike attempt. We are not at our campsite now. We've already started the day. So as I said last night, we stayed at this place called Harrison Ground Spring, where there was a water source, an actual spring, hence the name. And there was also a flat spot for like a campsite for several tents. And there was one other guy who was staying there. He actually passed us on the trail yesterday evening, towards the end of pretty close to the end of the day. I was not expecting anybody to pass us. Riley and I were stopped off to the side of the trail, kind of like we are right now. And I was taking a break to give Riley some food. And yeah, this guy passed us, and then that's actually what energized Riley to get moving again. And the next available campsite was this place called Harrison Ground Spring, which originally I was hoping to go past and get a little more distance, but by the time we got there, it was already dark, like completely dark. We had exhausted all the daylight, and I checked my Far Out app on my phone and saw that it was like 1.7 miles to the next campsite, and I just didn't feel like doing that. It felt like, why do that? Like it's already dark. If there was some daylight still to work with, I would have been okay with doing it, but given that it was already completely dark and we were at a campsite then, and there was water right there, all our needs were met, and I was tired. It just felt good to set up camp and settle in for the night. I decided to stay there, and I guess that was the right decision. But I also didn't get that really good feeling at the end of the day of having so when we're able to hike a little bit further, I usually get more of a good feeling at the end of the day that we've put in a good day. And we didn't have a bad day yesterday by any means, but I didn't feel like we had I guess in terms of mileage, we didn't have a very excellent day, I would say. But I also but beyond just the mileage, I didn't feel, I just didn't feel like I'm struggling for the words. Like I was tired last night, and I was definitely ready. I was happy to stop and set up camp and go to sleep. Like, that's my favorite part of the day. But I didn't feel like I'd really pushed myself, where I felt like I had really earned a good night's rest. Like the previous night, I felt like really, really ready to go to sleep, and I was like, I could feel it throughout my body. Like I had really put in a good day of hiking the previous night when we stayed at Bryant Ridge Shelter, and I didn't quite feel that yesterday. That's okay. I'm just describing how I felt. I'm not angry or anything. Anyway, with that said, we got up this morning, and I didn't do an opening day video to show our campsite because the other guy that was there, his name was Spin Dry. Riley and I I had a conversation with him last night, and Riley Riley was with us, and yeah, we had a nice talk last night to get to know each other. But then this morning, as I was packing up, he was also packing up, and we kind of there wasn't a lot of space, so we were kind of camped pretty close to each other. So I didn't feel like doing a video this morning, since he was still there and he was getting his stuff ready. So I just got my stuff ready, and Riley and I actually headed out before him, and it was actually pretty cool this morning. And I actually had it was cool enough that I actually started with my jacket on for the first time in a long time. And then we hiked down. So this is our elevation profile here. So this is where we camped last night, Harrison Ground Spring. And by the way, I tracked in 2018 when I did my through hike of the AT by myself without Riley, because he was not born then. I documented in my guidebook here where I camped every single night. And so in 2018, I started on May 18th, I believe, from Springer. Whereas this year, we started from Springer on May 3rd. So we started like 15 days earlier. But in 2018, my average mileage was a lot more than what we're doing this year. And so my 2018 self has been slowly catching up to us since Riley and I got a head start on my 2018 hike this year, since we started like a couple weeks earlier. And in 2018, on June 27th, I camped at Harrison Ground Spring. And yesterday was June 27th, and Riley and I camped at Harrison Ground Spring. So my 2018 self has now officially caught up to where we are now, given the 15-day head start that Riley and I had on my 2018 self. So at this point, my 2018 self has caught up to where we are now, and my 2018 self is just going to keep getting further ahead of us as the hike continues. But I thought that was cool, just cool that we camped last night at the exact same spot that I camped back in 2018 on the exact same day. And then in 2018, on June 28th, the next day, I hiked all the way up here to Virginia Route 607. Must have been a campsite there. And that would have been a day of, I guess, 22.6 miles that I did that day. And there's no way that Riley and I are going to do 22.6 miles today. I think we might be able to do 15 today. But we'll see. Anyway, so this is where we were last night in the elevation profile. And we hiked down to this road crossing and then a little bit up. And there was a campsite there where Riley and I took a break. I was getting warm, so I decided to take my jacket off, and I also ate a bunch of food. I had the remains of a Mountain House meal that I had started last night, which was given to me by one of the section hikers I met in the past several days. And then I also had like a couple, I had some chocolate chips, I had two individual packets of trail mix, and I had a chocolate raspberry truffle Lara bar. All this except for the chocolate chips were stuff that section hikers gave me. And yeah, so I had a bunch of food, and I feel well fed now, and feel like the energy's flowing through me. And I gave Riley some food as well, food and drink. And then we finally got moving again, and we hiked up to this peak here, Highcock Knob, and now we're descending, and we're getting to this place called Marble Spring Campsite, where there's water here. when we get there, we'll have done 3.7 miles on the day. But what I want to point out here is that according to so yesterday we had we started here at Bryant Ridge Shelter, and we had a lot of elevation gain to do. And now we're getting down here. So this last ascent that we had up to High Cock Knob was pretty much the only semi-big ascent that we're going to have on the day. Basically, according to this, we have some flatness after Marble Spring Campsite, and we have descent going down to Marble Spring Campsite. We have a little bit of uphill, but then we have a lot more downhill, and then flatness. We get down to the James River, and then we are crossing US Route 501, which is the road that goes into Glasgow, which is where I hiked into in 2017 and ended my first section hike on the AT. And by that point, once we get there, we'll have done like we'll have done like 11.5 miles at that point. And then we do have some uphill, but I think at that point we're only going to do at most like maybe 3 or 4 miles. So we might have some uphill to end the day. But before that, until then, for most of the actual day part, we have a lot of downhill and a lot of flat hiking. So that eases my concerns. I feel better knowing that we have more downhill hiking and flat hiking compared to just a ton of uphill hiking like we had yesterday. Anyway, just some information on the day. And the sky is clouded over, so it doesn't feel hot right now, but once we start moving, our body temperatures warm up, and most likely the sun will come out later today and it'll get warm, but right now it feels good. So I think that's enough of an update for the day, or for now. Riley's taking advantage to sleep right in the middle of the trail here. I think I see his paw starting to twitch. Yeah, his paw's twitching a little bit, so he is doing a little dreaming right now. Alright, so that's all for now. We will check in later. Alright, bye. Bye for now. Just checking in here. There's a hiker ahead of us who's playing the role of rabbit for Riley and I. And he's allowing Riley to really be motivated to hike. It's turned into a hot day, so it's very helpful to have this other hiker to hike with. Hello, Riley. Hello. Good boy. All right, Van Gogh and Riley here. Little update here. So we are at Matt's Creek Shelter currently. The guy we were hiking with earlier, he's hiked on. We actually hiked. Sorry, when I showed the video earlier, I just mentioned that he was like acting as our rabbit, and like setting the pace for us. And he stopped and took a break. We actually took a break together a little bit after that and got to know each other a little bit. He seems like a cool guy. His name is he has 2 trail names. Max Patch is one and Dragon Bait is another. Anyway, he's planning to go into Glasgow tonight, so he hiked on. Currently we are 2 miles from Glasgow, or from the road crossing. actually 2.2 miles from the road crossing US 501, which goes into Glasgow. And it's like mostly flat. I think it's like, yeah, it's largely flat from here to there. So it should be pleasant hiking. The only issue is that it's hot right now. So that's why Riley and I decided to take a break here. And we are getting ready to go. And as I've been sitting here and taking a break, the bugs have been really annoying, so that's why I'm scratching. I'm itchy, and that's why I'm scratching. But this is called Matt's Creek Shelter, and the reason is because there's a creek, it's called Matt's Creek, that goes right by the shelter. And then ultimately we're going to be getting close to the James River, which is a big river that kind of goes, yeah, it's a big river, and it goes near Glasgow, and I think it goes near Richmond, Virginia as well. Anyway, before we leave, yeah, so here it says Matt's Creek Shelter. This Matt's Creek is awesome. It's the best water source that I've seen in a long time, and I filled up 4 liters once we got here. Hey Riley, it's okay, buddy. And I gave Riley a bunch of water with his food as a snack, and I drank up. And I have 2 liters left. And we have 3.9 miles to the next shelter where the next water source is. Where the next easy water source is. Like, we could fill up from the James River if we wanted to. But I don't plan on doing that. So I'm going to carry 2 liters with us, which is plenty, more than enough. And I'll try to drink up as we get closer to the shelter, so I'm not carrying the full 2 liters the whole way. But this water source is so nice. Oh man, look at this water source. It's a whole creek. Like, the previous water sources that I've been filling up at have just been like little puddles and like trickles of water where you just have to like get the perfect angle to just get a little bit of water in. And this has like, you can go swimming here. So this is like water paradise. I dunked my head in the water down there earlier, and the water there is deep. You can totally like get your whole body in there. So I'm planning before we leave to take my shirt off and dunk my shirt in the water, and then put the shirt back on, and then I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna be shivering, but then we're gonna hike on, and it's gonna dry off pretty quickly. Man, listen to that water. Very nice. So we've done 9.2 miles on the day. When we get to from Harrison Ground Spring to the shelter here. By the way, I don't think I mentioned the at Harrison Ground Spring, the water source there, it was an actual spring, and it wasn't a good flow, and there wasn't a lot of water, but there was enough for me to fill up, and the water was very cold. I noticed that, and when I filled up the water, before filtering it, it was extremely clear. I thought that was really cool. That it was like ice cold and crystal clear, even though there wasn't a lot of it. But there was enough of a flow for me to get all the water I needed last night for Riley and I. Alright, so I'm gonna dunk my shirt, and when I dunked my head earlier in the water, like right there, that felt so good. Super good. And this dunking my shirt is gonna feel super refreshing as well. So we're gonna do that, and then Riley and I are I'm gonna do that, and then Riley and I are gonna get hiking. It feels like it's cooling down a little bit. It started off chilly this morning, like it was cool, and then it got hot, like real quick, and it's been hot, and we wouldn't have been able to get here in the time that we did without max patch / dragon bait to motivate Riley, because we were hiking through hot weather and we were exposed in the sunlight too, because we were hiking through a burn area where there just wasn't a lot of leaves overhead to block the sunlight. So Riley was panting a lot, but he was hiking strong because he was motivated to keep up with the other hiker. So we took a break earlier, and then we took a long break here. So I think Riley will be ready to continue on. We'll see. All right, so we'll check in later. Hey, Riley. We just saw a snake slither across the trail, and it's right there, actually. There it goes. It blends in very well, but it just slithered into that, where that tree is. Fortunately, it did not cause us any problems. So, over there to our left, I believe, is the James River. And we are getting closer to the James River footbridge. So we're on a very pleasant stretch of trail here. I think it's designed to be very pleasant. Like engineered to be very pleasant. So I am not complaining about a very pleasant stretch of trail. It's very nice to just kind of relax and just move the feet and not have to worry about going up and down or navigate difficult rocks. There's plenty of that on the trail to give us challenges, but whenever there's nice stretches like this, it's just a nice reprieve from the norm of difficult hiking. James River Face Wilderness. That's what we were just in, and we're exiting it now. This footbridge, the James River footbridge, is special or unique along the Appalachian Trail because it is the longest footbridge on the entire trail. I believe it's 0.2 of a mile. That's not very precise for a footbridge. Perhaps there's a sign on the bridge that says the exact length in feet. So I think I'm doing a good job of giving Riley water because he's urinating frequently. That's at least his second pee since we left the shelter. So I'm glad to see him urinating in the hot weather that we're having. Tells me that he's most likely staying decently hydrated, which is very important to me. All right, we'll check in later. I'm in a decently good mood here, so yeah, we'll check in later. So we are getting closer to the famous James River footbridge, the longest footbridge on the Appalachian Trail. Part of the reason I say that, part of the reason I'm like stressing this point is because in my AT AWOL guide, there is where it shows the James River footbridge in the in the regular section where it shows all the landmarks and the mileage and the elevation. It says right there on the page that it's the longest foot only bridge, or the longest footbridge on the AT. And the AWOL guide is it describes itself as being terse, meaning that it doesn't include a lot of description with regard to stuff. It tries to state of the facts and not elaborate, for the purpose of keeping things concise so that the book can be relatively small. So the comment in the guide about the footbridge being the longest on the trail is like just extra information. Like the author could have easily left this information out. It's really unnecessary, but he felt it was cool and important enough or relevant enough to people to include. And the guide, the AT AWOL guide, it's like my Bible out here. I've probably read and scoured through the pages of that book more than probably any other book in my entire life. Through the course of this is the third hike that I'm doing on the AT. I just eat that book up and study it so much to make sure that I know what's coming for the day, and then I like to look ahead to see what's coming in the future, and I like to look at the town information, and it just, like, I don't read it like a regular book. I just read it because it's so useful. It's just jam-packed with information that's just relevant to me as a hiker on the AT. And so because I've seen that comment about it being the longest footbridge, many times. I've seen it. I saw it in 2017. I saw it in 2018, and it's emblazoned in my memory. And I don't know anything about the James River footbridge other than that it's the longest one on the trail. And you know what else I don't know? I don't even know who the James River is named after. I was thinking about that. I think there's probably a sign next to the bridge that explains it. I was thinking of possibilities. Could it be James Madison? And I was thinking probably not, because if it was James Madison, wouldn't it be called the Madison River and not the James River? Could it be Henry James? I know Henry James is a famous James. There's lots of famous Jameses. It's definitely not LeBron James because LeBron James is much more recent than the James River. Hold up, buddy. So that's something I can maybe it'll explain it when we get there, or maybe I can look it up if not later on. But earlier on while we were hiking, we got some really good views. Riley, hold up. Really good views of the river. What? Like, why does he do this? Like, he was trying to get ahead of me initially. And then now he just wants to stop and take a break. You wanted to get ahead of me, and then I wouldn't let you, and now you're like, oh, I would just want to take a break. I can see you're hot, Riley. I can see. You're breathing heavily. So, yeah, so we had really good views of the James River. And the bridge is, like, very close. I could see the bridge as we were walking towards it. So, but now we don't have good views. We got socked in by the trees. So when we cross the bridge, I will break out the camera and show it. There's kind of a hiker tradition or a hiker thing where people like to jump off the bridge into the water. I've never done that, and I don't plan to, but it's something that people do. By the way, I did dunk my shirt earlier in Matt's Creek, and it felt really amazing. And it's still wet, and it's still helping to cool my core off. So I should do that more often, actually, when I get to a water source. Just dunk my shirt. All right, so we'll check in later. I'm gonna let Riley catch his breath here, and then we'll continue on in a bit. Thank you, thank you. James River Footbridge, dedicated to the memory of William T. Foote, 1946 to 2000, a tireless trail worker and enthusiast whose vision, persistence, and efforts made this bridge a reality. Bill was an Appalachian Trail through hiker, past president of the Natural Bridge Appalachian Trail Club, and past member of ATC's Board of Managers. He and his wife, Lori the Happy Feet, were the first to complete the Coast to Coast American Discovery Trail in 1997. Bill pursued his passions, honored his dreams, and cherished those around him. Dedicated October 14th, 2000. Beautiful. All right, so now we're gonna cross, and I'm gonna put this thing on my head first. Riley, hey, hold up, buddy. Riley, I know. Thank you. Riley, it's okay, big guy. I appreciate your help here.
Enthusiasm.
I know.
Your enthusiasm is unbelievable.
I know. All right, I'm good. I got him here. Come on, buddy. Hey, let's go, Riley. I know, Riley. You are excited, Riley. Hey guys, how's it going, man? Yep. Have you guys jumped in? Nice. All right. So you got people swimming down there. Looks very nice. Looks very nice. Yeah, jumping in is just not something I have a huge desire to do. I don't mind like getting in from like a place where I can just like hop in. Oh no, Riley's playing the game here on the bridge. He's waiting for that guy. It's all good. All right, so I'm gonna cut the camera here. We'll check in later.
And then they said they got some biggie, and I was like, okay, let's put some biggie. We'll walk across the bridge.
Cool. Yeah. And what did you say your trail name was again?
Big Blue?
Big Blue?
Yes, sir.
Nice. Thank you. How'd you get your trail name?
I got my trail name because I was wearing a UK hat. It was early. It was in northern Georgia. In between, what is it? Unicoi Gap and Dix Gap?
Yep.
Or is it vice versa, whichever way you go?
Unicoi and Dix Creek Gap if you're going north, I think. Yep.
Unicoi to Dix. And I ran into Gadget and Wagon Wheel. They were doing a,
I like that trail name, Wagon Wheel. That's probably from the Darius Rucker song?
Maybe? No,
okay.
Because he can't keep his fucking mouth shut. Is what he told me.
I see. So his mouth just runs like a wagon wheel.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I was leaning up against a tree listening to KSR, the Kentucky Sports Radio.
Yeah.
And they rode by. We talked about Calipari leaving and going to Arkansas and laughed about that. And then some other just college sports talk.
Sure.
And then
I'm a basketball fan, by the way.
When I was heading up the hill, and he screamed after me, he's like, "You should be Big Blue. Big Blue is your trail name."
Big Blue because of like Kentucky, or because
Kentucky Wildcats.
Yeah, because blue is their color, right?
Game,
yeah,
they go Big Blue.
I see.
And then there's Big Blue Nation, like the fans of University of Kentucky.
I think Riley, okay. So something pretty exciting just happened. So I decided I should, rather than just like wait until tonight to describe it, I should get my camera out and try to describe it in the moment here. Riley, hold up, buddy. So we crossed the crossed the footbridge as I captured. Riley, hold up, buddy. Riley, hold up, buddy. For some reason, my camera just shut off, but I thought my battery was out, but then I just turned it back on and I still have battery, so I'm not sure what happened. But anyway, yeah, so as I was explaining, we crossed the footbridge. Riley is super energized right now. And then we crossed the road I think it's US 501, to continue on the trail. So we're now leaving the road that goes into Glasgow, and we're hiking up to John's Hollow Shelter. By the way, and as I mentioned previously, this is like the final stretch of trail that I was able to do in 2017 on my first real hike of any part of the AT. So once we get past the next shelter up here, which is it's less than a couple miles, I will still have memories of the trail, but it will only be based off of my 2018 hike and not my 2017 and 2018 hikes. Anyway, so it's Riley was like really energized when we were crossing the bridge because there was that other hiker named Big Blue to energize him. But then Big Blue got off. He had some hiking partners that were behind him, and he got off at the parking area because he and his hiking partners are planning to go into the town tonight to get some Italian food at the Scotto's Italian restaurant there, which sounds like an awesome idea. And I was actually slightly tempted to say, me and Riley want to join, because they have an awesome place there. They have a free town, like a hiker pavilion, basically like a hiker structure where, and a whole field where hikers can camp and sleep inside the shelter area for free and get access to the town, and just spend money on, you know, whatever food they want to eat, which is really awesome. But I have so much food in my pack. I'm like, I have enough food, I think, to get us to Waynesboro, which is about a little less than 80 miles from here, I think. So it's totally unnecessary for me to go into town tonight. The only reason would be to indulge in some Italian food. Anyway, let me cut to the chase here. So Riley and I were hiking on, and Riley just stopped because he's breathing hard right now, and he was breathing hard earlier, and he just stopped in the middle of the trail and plopped down and was like, I'm taking a break. And partly it's because he's tired, but partly also because he didn't have anybody to hike with. And the person he was enjoying hiking with, Big Blue back there, he's still back there. And so Riley's like, I want to wait for him to catch up, and I'm not motivated to go forward. So if it was just him waiting on the other hiker, I would have tried to encourage him to continue on, but he was breathing very hard as well. He was panting. So I decided to take my pack off and take a break with him and let him catch his breath before trying to continue on. And I wasn't expecting any other hikers to really show up, because I figured, well, it's already getting on into the evening time kind of, and there's not that many hikers out here, and I figured if there are any other hikers, they're probably going to be likely to go into town, because we just crossed that road that goes into Glasgow. But up shows a hiker, very fit guy, young guy, tall, and I actually saw him yesterday. I saw a few people yesterday. Anyway, let me rewind a bit. So the guy that I camped with last night at Harrison Ground Spring, we talked for a bit after I got there in the dark. It was like 10 o'clock or so. So it was late, but he was sitting outside his tent eating some dinner, and we talked for a bit, and I found out that he's from Colorado and he's going to school in Montana now. And he said he had camped the previous night with like a group of 3 hikers, and he asked me if I got passed by anyone yesterday. And I said that Riley and I had stopped for a break at the first campsite after Bryant Ridge Shelter, which was in the morning. And we took an extended break there. And I remember that there were, so we were off trail, a little ways off trail, but we could still see the trail. And I do remember that there were 3 hikers that passed us. And I noticed, when I looked at them, I noticed, number one, that they were all in good moods, and they were talking with each other, so they weren't out of breath. And they were carrying really small packs, like just regular day backpacks. It did not look like they were thru hikers. And so I figured that they were just, well, not just, but I figured that they were day hikers, or just doing a short section, and not thru hikers. But they hiked on by very quickly, and they saw me, and they said hello. They were friendly, but we didn't talk for long because they were hiking fast. And so anyway, so the guy, his name is Spin Dry, that I camped with last night, he was curious if I hiked with, he was curious if I got passed by any hikers, because he was curious what happened to the hikers that he had camped with the previous night. And so that confirmed for him that the hikers that he had camped with the previous night were indeed ahead of him. And he explained to me that those hikers are actually, I believe they're through hiking the trail, and they're just doing huge miles. He explained that they're doing like 35 miles a day in some stretches, and they're carrying super light packs. And he said that one of them is a YouTuber. He said one of them isn't even like carrying a tent with them, or some like really important piece of gear that he's really skimping on to keep his pack light. And I was like, oh, that's cool, that's interesting information. Because this other guy, Spin Dry, he's doing big miles too. He's doing like 20 plus miles a day. But he was saying, like, I can't even keep up with these 3 hikers. They're doing crazy miles. And so that was, I mean, I remembered the information that he told me last night. But it was just information, like it didn't really matter to me that much. Anyway, so Riley and I were just taking a break a little while ago on the other side of the road that goes into Glasgow, as I mentioned. And this hiker shows up, and he's like, yeah, I saw you yesterday. And so he was one of the 3 hikers that passed me. And so it turns out that those 3 hikers, they, I guess they got into Glasgow either last night or this morning during the day. And he said that they spent the day in Glasgow today, those 3 hikers. And now they're hiking out. So they're continuing their hike. And the reason I'm kind of excited is that this first hiker showed up, but he was hiking with 2 other hikers. The other 2 hikers were a little bit behind him, and so me and this hiker that showed up, we were just talking briefly, because I was trying to place them. I didn't totally remember them from yesterday, since they passed by so quickly. And so I was trying to place them. And so we were talking for a bit, and then the second hiker showed up. And the second hiker I recognized, because this guy is the YouTuber. So I've seen this guy on YouTube, and his trail name is Quadzilla. And he's named Quadzilla because he's really fit and he has really strong quadriceps, and he wears short shorts which amplify his strong quadriceps. He's an Asian guy, and so he has a very accomplished hiking resume, but he added to that resume, I believe it was last year, when he actually completed the calendar year Triple Crown, which is where you do the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail and the Continental Divide Trail. You can do them in any order that you want, in any direction you want, but the goal is to do all 3 of those trails in a single calendar year. And he was able to accomplish that. And on top of that, he was able to film his calendar year Triple Crown hike and post it on YouTube. And he was the first person who's done a calendar year Triple Crown to actually document it on YouTube. So his YouTube channel, I believe, is called The Healthy Gamer, in case anyone is interested in checking it out. Of course, if you don't want to search for that, you can just, if you're interested, I mean, just search for Quadzilla Hiker. Lots of stuff will come up, or Quadzilla calendar year Triple Crown, something like that. Lots of stuff will come up. This is nice. I'm glad we have some pleasant trail here. All right, so I should be able to wrap this story up pretty soon. Yeah, so I've known about Quadzilla for a while, and he seems like a really cool guy. And I'm interested in the calendar year Triple Crown. Like, I think that's a really cool thing, and it's something that I would actually really be motivated to attempt at some point in my life. It's not a realistic possibility for me now with Riley, because it would not be like Riley would not be able to do a calendar year Triple Crown. It's so much more difficult to do that than to simply do a single through hike on the Appalachian Trail. I know, Riley, you're really excited. You want to catch up to him. So it's not a realistic possibility for me now with Riley, but that's okay. It's still something that I would be, if I'm healthy enough, that I would be motivated to do at some point in the future. But if not, that's okay. I can satisfy my adventure desires with other hiking, like just continuing to hike the AT, or we'll see what happens. But I have been interested in people that do the calendar year Triple Crown, and like whenever there's like an interview with someone that does it, I like to listen to the interview. And yeah. So I'm interested in both the calendar year Triple Crown, and also I've followed, like I haven't watched all of Quadzilla's videos, but I definitely know about him. And he posted, before we started, Riley and I started our hike, I noticed on YouTube that Quadzilla had posted a more recent video where he talked about like how he is able to maintain and afford his lifestyle of like living an adventurous life. And he explained how in the video a lot of the adventurous things that he's been able to do for people that don't know. And he also just explained how he's like, to maintain that lifestyle and to be able to make it a reality, he's just had to get comfortable with just kind of following his passions. And he's still been able to work, but he's been able to find jobs that are like more temporary in nature, that he can do for a shorter period of time, that allow him to save up money, and then it doesn't tie him up for a long period of time, so that he can then use the money that he's earned to go off on some adventure that he's been planning. Anyway, that video is on his channel if anyone wants to watch it. But I had watched it before we started the hike. It wasn't long before we started the hike, but it was definitely this year. And I had wrote back to him, or I left a comment on his video just thanking him for making it. And I was like, this is like, it was relevant for me because I'm kind of starting that type of lifestyle where I don't really have a reliable, consistent source of income or stable career. And I feel like I'm more interested in living a life of adventure, and I'm uncertain at this point, what I'm gonna do to make money. So I just found his video very relevant and interesting. And I mentioned in my comment that Riley and I were gonna be starting a hike on the AT pretty soon. And then he wrote back, which I thought was really cool. And he told me that he was actually gonna be coming out on the AT later this summer to hike it again. But he didn't say when. He just said he was going to be coming back out, and he was like, maybe I'll see you. And he wished Riley and I luck, I believe. And I wrote back saying, oh, that's awesome. And I was like, whenever you start, I'm sure, no matter where Riley and I are, I'm sure you'll catch up to us. And it would be awesome to meet you. Whenever we cross paths. And so that just happened just today. So yeah, Quadzilla walked up. He was the second of the 3 hikers, and I recognized him instantly. Okay, so I think that's a road. I think that's a trail that just leads from the road to the AT. And I think the AT, yeah, continues this way. That's White Blaze right there. Yeah, so Quadzilla walked up, and I recognized him instantly, and I was like, "Hey, Quadzilla!" And I'm sure he probably has lots of fans on YouTube, and interacts with lots of people who leave comments. So I have no idea if he remembered the exchange that we had a couple months ago, but I reminded him of it, and he didn't say specifically that he remembered it, but he was like, oh, that's cool. And he wasn't like in a rush to like continue hiking. I started by saying, I don't want to hold you up, because I knew he was doing, the 3 of them are doing big miles, but he was like, no. He stopped, and we chatted for not a long time, but chatted for long enough just to exchange pleasantries, and I was able to just tell him the story about the exchange we had on YouTube. Is it like I feel like I'm like a teenage girl at this point who's just met like a rock star. But yeah, it's like a hiking celebrity that I just met, and I'm definitely excited about it. I'm glad. And the other cool thing is that, oh, Riley, the 3 of them passed Riley and I yesterday while we were at the break, taking a break. But because we were taking a break, hey buddy, I didn't really get to see any of them, except for one of the guys, but that was not Quadzilla. And so I didn't realize that it was Quadzilla that had passed us yesterday. And when Spindry said that one of the guys was a YouTuber, he didn't say he was Quadzilla. I just figured he was, I didn't know which YouTuber he was. But now I know that it was Quadzilla. And it makes such a difference knowing that it's somebody that I actually know than someone that I haven't had any interaction with previously. And the other cool thing is that if Riley and I had like been delayed by like 5 minutes, literally, by 5 minutes. Hold up, buddy. 5 more minutes, just due to like anything that could have possibly happened today. Like if we had decided to extend any of our breaks by 5 minutes, then those 3 hikers, including Quadzilla, would have just hiked on their merry way, and Riley and I would not have been in that position at that point to see them. The only reason we saw them today was because they decided to spend the day in Glasgow and then hike on later, and that gave Riley and I the chance to catch up, and we just barely caught up to cross the road in time to see them as they hiked out. So I think that's really cool. Really, really cool. And also, because they passed us, Riley's got so much energy now. He was just taking a break, and we were gonna wait till he caught his breath, but he's been re-energized now. We'll definitely have to take a break at some point because he's out of breath, but as long as he's motivated to go, I think it's okay to keep hiking. Okay, so that is my exciting story for the day. I'm glad I decided to tell it now, while I'm in the moment, and while the excitement is probably evident in my voice. And we have a big climb ahead of us. After we get up to John's Hollow Shelter, which we passed the sign saying that it's like 0.6 of a mile ahead, there's definitely some big elevation gain that we have. So, and we're also going into a dry stretch, so we're gonna stop into the shelter area, and I'm gonna fill up all our water bottles and drink up, and we're gonna hike out with 4 liters of water, and that's gonna have to last us for about 10 miles. Which is fine. That's plenty to last us, and it's good that we'll be able to drink up there, and then we're hiking into the evening, so we'll be able to get some mileage tonight, and then we'll need to try to get off to an early start tomorrow so we can get some mileage while it's cool. And the 4 liters should be plenty for us, but that is our plan. Hope everyone is doing well. And we'll check in later. Right, Riley? All right. Bye for now. All right, so Riley and I have made it to the side trail that leads to John's Hollow Shelter. And I'm just stopping here. I don't stop at every... I do stop at a lot of side trails that lead to shelters, but just stopping here because this is the memorable shelter for me. It's the final shelter that I made on my very first AT hike. I apologize if I'm making a bigger deal than needed for this. But yeah, it was this shelter that I got to when my feet were really hurting, and I spent the night there. I was the only one in the shelter, and I remember just feeling miserable, and then getting up the next morning and needing to use the bathroom, so I needed to walk to the privy. And I think I walked to the privy barefoot because I didn't want to put my shoes on, because it was going to hurt too much to put my shoes on my feet. And I was super careful to walk like bare feet to try to get to the privy. And anyway, I remember that morning trying to decide, what do I want to do? Do I want to continue north, or do I want to make a big decision and hike back south, which is a big no-no if you're hiking north. But do I want to hike south and try to let my feet, give my feet some rest? And that's what I decided to do. And that was a tough decision. But it was probably the right decision in the moment, to give my feet some rest, because my feet were in bad shape. Anyway, so yeah, this is the shelter. It looks kind of far. I was thinking about going in and looking at it again, but I don't need to. I know exactly what it looks like. If anyone else wants to see it, I'm sure there's other pictures online to show it. It's not necessary. We're gonna keep hiking and just be thankful that we're healthy right now. We're healthy on our hike. The only thing that's challenging us, that's a real challenge to us, is the heat. I know, Riley. I was gonna go in. Originally I was gonna go into the shelter and fill up on water, but there was a stream just a short while back on the trail that I was able to fill up at. So Riley and I combined to drink up a full liter of water at the stream, and I have 4 full liters on me, and that should be plenty to get us through this dry stretch. Riley, hold up, buddy. It's okay. We have 10 miles to get through, and 4 liters should be plenty. So Riley is still go, go, go. He remembers the other hikers that are in front of us, and we are getting tangled up here. So Riley, calm down, dude. Calm down. Okay. All right, so I'm in a good mood. We're going to get a few more miles in tonight, and then we're going to set up camp and have a great night, and we will check in later. All right, bye for now. All right, so Riley and I have literally just walked a few steps, and I'm looking down to our right. We crossed the path to go into the shelter, and I didn't want to walk all the way down there because it's just out of our way. But I can see the shelter from here, from the trail. It's way down there. It's that brown thing, and I can see the roof, and the privy is, I can't see the privy now, but I know it's behind the shelter. Cool, so I didn't even need to walk down there to see it. It's just another shelter, but it is definitely a memorable shelter for me. And so it's down there, and we're gonna hike on. And one of the cool things about the trail is, like, there's so many memories of it, but as you're doing a through hike, the trail gets simpler as you go on, because everything you pass, it suddenly becomes no longer relevant. Like when it's still in the future for you, when you haven't yet passed it, it's still very relevant for you because it's something that you might decide to stop at, or like a shelter, it might be something you want to stop at, or a town, it might be something you want to stop at. And even if you don't want to stop there, like, you need to know what kind of terrain you're heading into, what the trail is going to be like. You need to know as much information as you can get. But once you pass a certain section, it's behind you. And so when I say, like, the trail becomes simpler as you go forward, like I guess what I mean is, like, when there's a town ahead of you, there's so much, there's a good deal of planning that you might want to do. Hold up, buddy, in terms of, like, where you want to go, when you want to arrive there, how you want to structure your days before, leading up to getting there, so that you can maybe get there in the evening if you want to get there in the evening, or get there in the morning, whatever. But once you pass by that town, you don't have to worry about that anymore. You're on to the next town. And yeah, your mind is still occupied with stuff, but you're no longer, you have fewer future towns to focus on. Maybe I'm not doing a good job of describing this, but for me, it feels like the trail starts to simplify as you get forward. And all the planning that you were thinking of doing as it relates to a particular town or some other place on the trail, you no longer need to think about that, because it's no longer relevant to your current hike, and you can just focus on whatever is coming up in the immediate future. And you're always kind of in the back of your mind thinking about stuff that's further on along the trail. So when you're early on in the hike, you're thinking about like what's immediately in front of you, but you're also thinking about all the future towns. It's like it's in the back of your mind. The future stuff that's not maybe coming up immediately. And then as you progress, you really just forget about the stuff you've already passed for the most part. And the stuff that was in the back of your mind now transitions to the forefront of your mind. And the stuff that was further on the trail, it kind of advances in priority. If there's like a ladder of priority levels that you assign. So like, for example, Mount Katahdin is way off in the future. That's the ultimate goal. But there's nothing that I need to do actively to plan for that right now. The next main town that's on my mind right now is Waynesboro, which is about approximately 860 on the trail. And that's the town right before you enter the Shenandoah National Park. And that's the next town that I'm planning to possibly visit. I don't think I'll need to visit any other towns before then. If I do, it would be a challenge to get there because there's no other towns that the trail goes through directly. Anyway, so that's just an example that Waynesboro is the next town that's like kind of really on my radar. And previously that was Daleville. Daleville was on my radar for a while. And Woods Hole Hostel was on my radar. And Pearisburg was on my radar. But now that we passed those towns, I don't have to worry anymore or spend any time thinking about what I want to do when I get there because they're already in the rearview mirror. So right now, my focus is, I can still, remember them and appreciate the memories and enjoy those. But right now, apart from enjoying the daily nature of our hike, which I certainly try to do, the main planning thing is, or not necessarily planning thing, but thing that I fantasize about in my mind in terms of getting to a town is Waynesboro. So Waynesboro, the trail doesn't go directly through Waynesboro. It gets to, I think, a place called Rockfish Gap, which is near Interstate 64, I believe. And I believe that is about 3.7 miles outside of the town of Waynesboro. Hold up, Riley, hold up. Let me get in front, buddy. And there are many trail angels, I believe, within the town of Waynesboro that are happy to give hikers a ride into town so that they don't have to actually walk the full 3.7 miles. And Waynesboro is nice because they also have a park in town where hikers can camp for free. So that is a really nice perk. And they also have many good restaurants. But the one that's really on my radar is a Chinese buffet called Ming's. I think it's just called Ming's. And it's a very nice Chinese buffet for hiker standards. They have a very large selection. Okay, Riley, please stay behind me. Anyway, so when we get to Waynesboro, if it works out, I think it'd be fun to go in and eat at the Chinese buffet. I'm gonna take a break here, and there's not much that I need to do in terms of planning for that right now, but it's just fun to think about while I'm hiking. So hopefully that made some sense. Sorry for rambling on so much, but yeah, hopefully that made some sense, and I'm glad that we have 4 liters of water on us, which is like the maximum that I could carry more if I needed to, but I think 4 liters is a for most scenarios that 4 liters is plenty. So I'm glad that we have plenty of water, and that will allow us to have a good dinner tonight. Because most of my food is stuff that you need to add water to, and it'll also should give us plenty of water to stay hydrated tomorrow until we get to the next water source. And I'm gonna stop rambling now, and I'll just say we will check in later. So bye for now. All right, so Riley and Van Gogh here. We are in our tent. Just want to close out the day. I'm very glad to be in our tent now. We are both exhausted, and just ready. Yeah, just happy to be in our tent. So after, let's see, the last time we checked in, I was raving about meeting Quadzilla, and we had just passed John's Hollow Shelter, and from there we made it another about 3.1 miles, but it was a lot of uphill, and initially it wasn't very hard hiking because there were a lot of switchbacks, but once we lost the daylight, it started to get a lot harder. And as we got closer, as we got higher in elevation and it got later in the day, the wind started picking up quite a bit, and it's still very windy. You can probably hear it right now. So we're actually camped at a place called Big Rocky Row. That's the name according to the AWOL guide, and according to Far Out, the name is just Cliffs. So we're basically at elevation of, according to the AWOL guide, 2,992. And John's Hollow Shelter, for comparison, was at elevation 1,021. So we've done almost just under 2,000 feet of elevation gain in the last 3.1 miles that we've gone. And I was talking earlier about how last night I didn't feel like we had really exerted ourselves, or I didn't feel like I had really exerted myself at the end of the day. That is not the case tonight. I definitely feel like I exerted myself. Riley did awesome, but he was telling me that he was ready to find a campsite. Before we got to our campsite, he was ready to go to sleep. So we both exerted ourselves, and so I feel absolutely happy to be here. Absolutely feel like we've earned the good night's rest that I hope we get. And when we got up here, we're actually at a really cool campsite where there's a it's not just a campsite, it's like a view overlooking a it's basically like a view spot, but there's enough grassy space to set up our tent. And when I was setting up the tent, I had some trouble because even though it's grassy, there's rocks, like or some rock sheet that's pretty close to the soil surface, so I wasn't able to easily insert my tent stakes, and I had to really poke around to find good spaces. And actually, one thing that I think I've learned is that when I'm trying to set up the tent and put the tent stakes in, if I have trouble because the soil is rocky, I think one good strategy is to try not to stick the tent stake down so vertically, so that I'm trying to get the stake in very deep into the ground. I think it's a better strategy to, if the soil's rocky, to try to angle the tent stake more at a smaller angle, so that it doesn't go quite as deep into the ground and it's less likely to catch on the rocks, but it can still, even if it's at a smaller angle, it can still get underground and get a lot of soil underneath it to keep it in place, but it's less likely that it'll get jammed up on some rocks. That wasn't something that was on my mind previously, but after just having a bunch of issues tonight, towards the end of it, I realized that if I try to put it in at a lower angle, that it might be less likely that it'll get jammed up on a rock, but still have enough support so that the stake is secure. So glad I mean, I'm not sure entirely if that's going to work because I haven't tried it a lot in practice, but I'm going to try that out going forward when I have this same issue. Okay, so that's the update for the end of the day, and I hope everyone is doing well who's watching this, and Riley and I will check in again tomorrow on Saturday, June 29th. It'll be day number 58 for us. Okay, good night. Bye for now.